This video is brought to you by channel partner 4 years running, Squarespace. Stick around to learn more about them, as well as a special offer they're making available through my channel. Gamers! Ciao! Yasu! And other European greetings. Here's a hot tip. Literally, don't go holidaying in Europe during the hottest recorded month in 120,000 years. I swear to God, stretches of my trip felt like I was vacationing in an air fryer. Shit got so bad that the airport I was meant to land in Sicily burned down. I'm not even joking, by the way. Go look it up. Catania Airport fire. I had to cancel my whole Sicily leg as a result. Now I will never see the house that Mario and Luigi were born in. I'm very disappointed. But yes, I am back, fresh-faced, sun-kissed, and approximately 16 kilos heavier. It's the winter weight that will get me through the upcoming release season, since I plan to spend the next 3 to 4 months in my dark man cave playing video games, eating and sleeping only during loading screens. Hopefully, Starfield recreates those legendary Morrowind on Xbox loading screens. That way I can sleep, 12 hours a day and put on another 16 kilos. While I've been away, Austin has been holding down the fort, and it's been nice to see everyone immediately cast me aside in favor of the younger, hotter model. I gave you the best years of my life, and this is how you repay me? Did Fallout 76 mean nothing to you? Anthem? What about the boat metaphors? Surely you still feel something for the boat metaphors? Regardless, I have got some good news for you. Austin ain't going nowhere, and it's very much the plan to have him continue reviewing games more regularly. As you all well know, I can't cover everything by myself, but 2 people can cover most things, and you can certainly expect Austin to be reviewing a variety of big and small titles across the channel as we settle into a new normal. Pretty excited about this chapter, to be honest, and I want to thank not only Austin for his hard work and talent, but also you guys for so kindly welcoming him in and so quickly kicking me to the curb. That really meant a lot to me, thank you. With Austin focusing on some new things, you may wonder who's going to pick up the slack. Is SkillUp going to start editing his own videos? Fuck no, I would sooner quit YouTube than boot up Adobe Premiere ever again. No, luckily we are fortunate enough to welcome Big Stu, the man who edits the Frames Per Second podcast. He'll continue to do that while also taking over editing of the weekly news show, as well as general editing support across the channel. Stu is formerly of GameSpot and is incredibly cool and incredibly talented. Very happy to have him on board, and I hope you guys will make him feel as welcomed and as appreciated as Austin felt while he edited this show these past 2.5 years. Alright, well that's all the channel update stuff and preamble done, so what say we talk about some gaming news? It's been a hot minute since we've done that, so forgive me if we reach a little further back than a single week. I think it'd be cool to have a look at the biggest news stories for the past month, since some pretty interesting stuff went down. You can kind of think of this episode as this month in video games, so if you're ready, let's do it. What better place to start than dunking on Rockstar? Not that they need much help, since they're pretty good at dunking on themselves these days. For a while now, there have been rumors of churning that a Red Dead 1 remaster was on the way. There were numerous clues leading to this rumor, including a rating of the title in Korea, various changes to Rockstar's websites, and plenty of other things. The hope was that this might leverage the fact that the Red Dead 1 map was already built in Red Dead 2, so you could repurpose that and the Red Dead 2 game systems, and that's your remaster. I never bought into that, because while that sounds simple, it's really not. That's a massive undertaking that would require a lot of love and care from a dedicated development team and a publisher willing to invest the money required to properly honor the source material. This is Rockstar and Take-Two we're talking about here, so that was never going to happen. What do we actually get? We got a Red Dead 1 port with no enhancements whatsoever, no multiplayer. It's only coming to PS4 and Switch, and it's $50 for real. It's probably the worst remaster announcement ever, I think. Like, people hated The Last of Us 1 getting a remaster, but come on, man, at least Naughty Dog put some effort into that. This is just nothing. It's just like nothing, and it's $50. I mean, come on. You may wonder why it's not headed to Xbox. That's because there's already an excellent version of the game available there via Xbox backwards compatibility, enabling up to 4K resolution on Series X. You may wonder why it's not coming to PC, given the game has never been available on PC. And yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you, to be honest. Absolutely no clue why Rockstar would leave the PC community high and dry, but they did. The backlash to this announcement has been immense. The announcement trailer has been flooded with downvotes, social media awash with negative reactions, and memes decrying the current state of Rockstar. One interesting set of talking points resurfaced during the discussion, those of Take-Two boss Strauss Zelnick, who in 2021 said this, quote, "Remastering has always been a part of the strategy. We've done differently than the competition. We don't just port titles over, we actually take the time to do the very best job we can making the title different for the new release. for the new technology that we're launching it on. So we improve the technology, we upgrade the visuals, and we make performance enhancements. And that's why I think our remastered titles typically do so well, end quote. Since then, Take-Two has shipped the disastrous GTA Trilogy remaster, and they've announced this basic-ass overpriced Red Dead release. So yeah, CEOs, man, God bless them. It's important to remember that Rockstar and Take-Two really don't give a fuck, and they haven't for a long time, and they especially won't next year because it's all but certain that GTA 6 will launch in 2024. Zelnick hosted an investor briefing just today where he reiterated that 2024 will be a very, very big year for the publisher, with a massive spike in bookings projected. That can only mean the release of GTA 6, since nothing else in their portfolio could possibly account for that sort of bump. It also lines up with various rumors and leaks we've seen to this point. GTA 6 is almost certainly on the way in 2024 and will likely be the only game that Rockstar puts out for the next 10 to 15 years. Speaking of earnings calls, EA held one as well, and they're doing pretty well for themselves, though wouldn't you know it, a lot of that success is owed to a single-player, offline game with no microtransactions. EA's net bookings grew 21% year on year, with EA attributing the bump to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which had its fair share of technical problems but was an otherwise great video game. As I've said multiple times before, EA's sports business continues to be a dumpster fire and a microtransaction hellscape, but their single-player focused core games like Dead Space, Jedi Survivor, and Wild Hearts are all shooting at the right stuff, so it's nice to see commercial success for this strategy because it's better than the alternative. From exceeding expectations to never, ever meeting them, Square Enix also held an earnings call recently, and true to form, they're not happy with how well their games are selling. Bloomberg is reporting that 3 people who attended the earnings call have all said that Square Enix president Takashi Kiryu indicated that Final Fantasy XVI did not meet high-end expectations. It's a bit of a meme at this point, as Square Enix seem to say that about everything they put out, but it doesn't change the fact that Square Enix shares dropped 15% that day, reflecting those comments, a decline in operating profit, and delays in Square's mobile strategy. While I was not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy XVI, a point that the subreddit refuses to let go, most people really liked it, and the title sold over 3 million units in its launch window, an impressive result given that it's currently just a PS5 exclusive. The title will no doubt have very long legs as it gets released on other platforms, and producer Yoshi P has begun teasing the prospect of DLC, saying that the company was currently considering it, indicating that we shouldn't expect anything anytime soon, but it's probably going to happen at some point. Interesting tangent to this one, Platinum Games Vice President and action game savant Hideki Kamiya has said that he thinks Japan should be proud of the term JRPG. It follows a conversation I had with Yoshi P in Japan, where he revealed to me that he didn't like the term JRPG as it had negative connotations and was used derisively in some circles of game dev and games media. It was a fascinating insight that led to a lot of discussion on the matter, and recently Video Game Chronicle asked Kamiya what he thought about it. He said this, quote, "So when it comes to the term JRPG, this is something that ties into this. These are RPG games that, in a sense, only Japanese creators can make with their unique sensitivity when it comes to creating these experiences. I think it's certainly something that should be celebrated moving forward, and someone should actually aim to make a king of JRPGs game to express that. As Japanese game creators, we're very proud of the actual term JRPG," end quote. It's important to note that he wasn't saying that Yoshi P was wrong, by the way, he was just offering his own view, and it's really interesting to hear the two very different perspectives on this from two master game makers. I'll leave a link to my Yoshi P interview and the Video Games Chronicle interview with Kamiya below. So how about that Baldur's Gate 3, huh? Man, I remember playing Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 at launch back in the day and having my mind just completely blown by them, and to see the third one come along and do it all over again for a new generation of gamers nearly a quarter of a century later, that is wild. Because yes, Baldur's Gate 3 is absolutely taking over. Over the weekend, it peaked at 814,000 concurrent players, making it one of the biggest games in the history of Steam. That puts it in the upper echelon, along with the likes of Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, and various live service multiplayer games that typically dominate Steam's top 10. It's performing just as strongly on the review front as well. Reviews are still very slowly trickling in due to the game's immense size and the late provision of review code, but already Baldur's Gate 3 sits at 95 on OpenCritic, making it the second highest rated game of the year behind Tears of the Kingdom's 96. A week ago, if you'd said to me that anything other than Tears of the Kingdom would win Game of the Year, I'd have given a hearty chuckle. Now, I just don't know. That is how good Baldur's Gate 3 is. It's so good that it will no doubt attract the eye of the megacorps, keen to add Larian Studios to their stable as the acquisition wars continue. Good news though, Larian boss Swen Winky isn't at all interested. He told Bloomberg, quote, "I'm getting older, but I'm certainly not done yet," end quote. He said it's always flattering to receive such attention, but he isn't keen to sell his company anytime soon. PC Gamer asked Vinky about his thoughts on a potential Baldur's Gate 3 expansion, and his answer wasn't super encouraging. He says it certainly isn't off the table, but he did say it would be an absolutely mammoth undertaking that would be very hard to pull off owing to the very nature of Dungeons & Dragons itself, and how funky it can get after characters hit level 12, which is where character level is capped at in Baldur's Gate 3. He also said that the studio is interested in a smaller project next to serve as a bit of a palate cleanser after the huge amount of effort that went into Baldur's Gate 3, and given how good the game is, I'd say he and his team have earned as much time off as they damn well please. They're not kicking back just yet though. They are still hard at work on getting the game running on Xbox, particularly Xbox Series S, which has proved to be rather challenging for them given the memory limitations of that hardware. They do say that it's probably going to be no sooner than 2024 at this point. It's a topic that the Friends Per Second quizzed Vinky on when we had him on the podcast. I was really bummed to miss that one, by the way, but you don't have to miss it. Link in the description below. Check it out. It's a fantastic chat, and much like the rest of the channel, it's all the better for my absence. A quick lightning round to finish off. Remember last month when Sega were all like, pay-to-earn games are boring, and everyone cheered because it was the first time a video game executive ever said anything good? Well, hold that applause, because this week Sega announced that it was teaming up with a Korean-based company called Nextline to license an immensely popular IP for an upcoming Web3 game. What is that immensely popular IP? Well, we don't know, but I think it's pretty clear from the descriptor alone. So you should absolutely expect to see a new NFT-based Echo the Dolphin game very soon. Remember how we all made jokes about how Insomniac was hard carrying the PS5 by releasing a new game like every 6 months or whatever? Well, they aren't slowing down, it seems, as a recently unearthed interview reveals that Insomniac are working on at least one other game in addition to Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. The studio had at one point advertised for a multiplayer project, so this reveal isn't too surprising. Could it be a Resistance revival? Absolutely not, don't be ridiculous. Take-Two Interactive, more like Take-Two times the cash interactive, because this year the executives doubled their pay versus 2022. CEO Strauss Zelnick took home $42 million, up $16 million from the year before. It follows an announcement earlier this year of layoffs, targeting likely hundreds of staff to achieve a net $50 million cost reduction. I have an idea. Just fire Zelnick and you've already saved $42 million of that targeted 50. Hope that advice is helpful. You are very welcome. Microsoft has admitted that removing Call of Duty from Steam was a mistake. The reveal came from a court filing relating to the Activision Blizzard acquisition case. Internal Microsoft documents labeled the move a, quote, resounding failure, saying that it did not push the targeted number of players to make the jump to Battle.net. I wonder if the same logic applies to the Epic Games Store. Spoiler alert, it absolutely does. Are we ever going to get another Smash Brothers game? Series creator Masahiro Sakurai thinks so, but he remains adamant that he won't be involved with it. Speaking on his YouTube channel, he says that Smash is too big for Nintendo to leave dormant, but he says he can't see Nintendo making another one without him, and he doesn't want to do it. Bit of a funny catch-22 that I'm sure Nintendo executives probably find less humorous. Lenovo may be entering the handheld PC space. Reporting out of Windows Central reveals that Lenovo are working on a handheld similar to the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally. That device could look like the Lenovo Legion Play, a handheld Android device with an 8-inch display powered by an AMD chipset. No word on official announcements or launch windows yet, but stay tuned. And finally, Star Wars Outlaw developer Massive Entertainment have clarified that their upcoming game won't be so massive after all. Earlier, they had said that a single zone in Outlaws could be the size of 2 to 3 zones in Assassin's Creed Valhalla stitched together, leading the internet to exclaim, "No!" Speaking to IGN at San Diego Comic-Con, creative director Julian Garrity clarified that Outlaws is, quote, absolutely not a 200 or 300-hour epic unfinishable RPG, end quote. I really love that we've reached the point where even Ubisoft employees are like, oh yeah man, Valhalla was just too fucking long, wasn't it? When it comes to most things, moderation is key, so it's nice to hear that Garrity and his team are setting more finite horizons than those of ye olde England. So what got announced or delayed this month? A hell of a lot, as you can imagine. Let's do some port announcements first. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is getting a last-gen port. Allow me to be the first to ask, how? Have you seen how badly this game runs across current gen systems and even top-end PCs? You're gonna somehow get this thing running on a PS4 or an Xbox One without those machines melting into steaming piles of plastic? That's going to be quite the Digital Foundry video, can't wait for that one. No date for when these ports hit, but Respawn are currently at work on them. High on Life from Squanch Games took over Game Pass when it launched in December of last year, and now those on PlayStation can finally enjoy what's likely to be Justin Roiland's last ever performance. That was shadow dropped while I was away and is now available for both PS4 and PS5. I actually really recommend it. I played and finished it last year, and it's a good time so long as you're into that whole Rick and Morty style humor. Everspace 2 is coming to consoles on August 15th. After a very successful early access period and an even more successful PC launch, the space shooter will make its way to Xbox and PlayStation. No word on a Switch port yet. Saints Row, oof, a sad tale given that it effectively led to the shuttering of Volition and likely the end of the Saints Row franchise as we know it. If you're looking for one last hurrah though, then the game's third and final DLC arrives this week. It's called A Song of Ice and Dust. Hopefully it concludes things better than A Song of Ice and Fire did. Not for nothing, but Saints Row is also headed to Steam on August 24th, the one-year Epic exclusive agreement having expired. I don't imagine that Saints Row is going to be competing with Baldur's Gate 3 for any concurrent player count records. The final port announcement we got this week was for something not even out yet. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is a spiritual successor to the legendary Jet Set Radio, and we knew that this was arriving for PC on August 19th, but now we know that consoles will get it on September 11th. This looks amazing, and if it delivers even a fraction of what Jet Set did, then we're in for a good time indeed. Here's a weird one. Sci-fi survival game Icarus is getting a relaunch with a new expansion and an open world mode. This one launched back in 2021 and has had a steady stream of updates since then, maintaining a small but dedicated playbase in that time. The relaunch changes the overall structure of the game, moving it from something mission-based to more of a persistent open world thing. Survival games can often take a few months or years of dev time to really get cooking, so this might be one worth checking back in on when the update launches on August 24th. Alright, let's do some good old-fashioned release date announcements now. Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden is kind of sneaking up on everyone, I think. This is one of the 14 games that Don't Nod currently have in development, and this one is a third-person cinematic action title with a lot of Sony game energy. It looks pretty damn impressive, I think, and it recently got a release date November 7th, headed to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Assassin's Creed Codename Jade is that mobile Assassin's Creed game you've been seeing a bit of. It's the one set in China. This does not have an official title yet, but it is getting a beta kicking off this week. Registrations are available through the game's official website, so sign up if you're keen to check that one out. Here's one I absolutely did not see coming. Breathage 2 has been announced. So if you missed it, Breathage was basically Subnautica in space, except for the last third of the game, which kind of descended into an awkward corridor simulator that totally abandoned everything that made the first two-thirds of the game work. It was a promising title that felt compromised by budgets and timelines, so the announcement of a sequel is kind of a good thing, since it'd be nice to see this dev team have another crack at this formula, all of their learnings in hand. No date for this one yet, but don't expect it anytime soon. Final announcements for the week are literally final, because while I was away, Square Enix announced that Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, titled Dawn Trail, is on the way. In a most unconventional twist, it's going to be a vacation. Derplander has saved the world enough times that he's earned some much needed R&R, so he's headed to a tropical island paradise inspired by South America. This marks the beginning of a major new story arc for the game. The previous Light and Dark saga completed with Endwalker, and the expansion also promises to bring a substantial graphical overhaul, giving the game a much needed glow up since Final Fantasy XIV was looking a little dated compared to more contemporary offerings. There's no specific date for the expansion yet, but Square Enix are promising a release date in northern summer of next year. If you're an Xbox fan looking at the Final Fantasy XIV hype thinking, must be nice, well, I've got good news for you. Final Fantasy XIV is officially headed to Uncle Phil's big black box, and also the little white one too. Phil Spencer himself took to the stage to make the announcement, delivering on a promise that he made as far back as 2019. Xbox will get a beta of the MMO in the coming months, with a full release planned for spring 2024. The announcement coincides with an expanding of the free trial that Final Fantasy XIV has long provided, and soon players will be able to play up to and including the Stormblood expansion for free. That's like 200 hours of content for $0 and 0 cents. Not a bad deal. Xbox fans, enjoy yourselves. Final Fantasy XIV really is something special, and it's nice to know you guys finally get to enjoy it. One delay announcement this month, and it was for Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. This one was meant to launch this year, but has now been pushed into Q2 2024. Developers saying they needed more time to get it right. Fair enough. 2 game cancellations this month. The first was for Gundam Evolution. It was basically Overwatch with Gundam, and while it was apparently pretty good, it obviously wasn't good enough and will be decommissioned on November 29th of this year. Another one to add to the rapidly expanding live service graveyard. The other cancellation hits really hard. A while back, rumors leaked that Ubisoft were hard at work on an Immortal Phoenix Rising sequel, and everyone was like, hell yes, because Immortal Phoenix Rising ruled, and we'd love to see more of it. Well, this week we got word that that sequel has been canned. It was a report from Videogames Chronicle at first. The Ubisoft then confirmed it, saying that they're allocating resources to other projects. Leave it to Ubisoft to cancel the sequel to the one good game they've put out in the last 3 years. Like, Skull and Bones didn't get cancelled, but this did? Come on, man. I'm legit bummed about this, by the way. Phoenix Rising was really good, and it's a shame that we won't be getting any more of it. So what came out this past month? Well, we've already spoken about Baldur's Gate 3, so no need to retread that one. Exoprimal hit. Austin did the review for it here on this channel, and he had plenty of nice things to say about it, despite the game having some very weird structural issues holding it back. Personally, I'd always worried about how much mainstream appeal this one would find, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be going great guns, with the steadily declining player base on Steam hovering at around 700 people peak. Sure, most people are playing on Game Pass, absolutely, but Steam numbers have always been a good barometer for overall success, and these numbers are not good. Also, doesn't help that reviews for this one are pretty mid, a fair 68 on OpenCritic, though a more encouraging 79% mostly positive on Steam. I don't know, man, I still wonder if Capcom have the stomach to stick with this one over the long term, especially given how well the rest of their portfolio does. Viewfinder is a charming and very clever indie puzzle game that dropped a few weeks ago to rave reviews. Be sure to go back and check that one out if you've missed it. Pikmin 4 released exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. Unsurprisingly, it totally rocks, a mighty 88 on OpenCritic. I just watched the Donkey review for it, and he called it his most anticipated game for 2023, and he says it exceeded every one of his expectations. Hard not to be at least a little bit excited for it with an endorsement like that. Remnant 2 arrived a few weeks ago as well. Austin did the review for that one here on the channel, and he absolutely loved it, strongly recommending it to anyone with an even passing interest in shooters or Souls-likes or both. He's not alone in his adoration, as the title sits at a strong 82 on OpenCritic and a very positive 81% on Steam. This has been a real blockbuster hit for Gearbox as well, the title hitting an all-time peak of 110,000 players, more than double the peak of the first game. Remnant is a fantastic franchise from a fantastic studio, so it's nice to see it getting the recognition and success that it deserves. Episode 1 of The Expanse, a Telltale series, launched last week, and it's apparently pretty good. I will wait until all 5 episodes are out before jumping in, but preliminary reviews are very positive across the board. And finally, Disney Illusion Island launched on the Switch. It's meant to be a good time. Strong 75 on OpenCritic. I haven't played it, but my podcast buddies have. They spoke about it for a good while over on the Friends Per Second podcast while I was away, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to it below. So what's coming out this week? A few smaller but interesting things. First up, Tower of Fantasy arrives on the PS4 and PS5. This is basically Genshin Impact, but not, so if you're looking for even more waifu collection games, then this one might be for you. That's live right now. WrestleQuest was meant to arrive today, but just moments before I finalized this script, the game got delayed to August 22nd. Very unusual to see a delay happen so late, since this was literally 4 hours before the game was meant to go live. Still better a delay than launching something broken, I guess. WrestleQuest is pretty much what it says on the tin, a wrestling-themed adventure RPG. Looks pretty damn solid, and early reviews are encouraging. We'll circle back to that one at release. Atlas Fallen arrives this week for all platforms bar the Switch. Austin will be reviewing this one, as code came through while I was still on vacation. Still, I did a preview for it, link in the description, and I enjoyed what I played. It's very Darksiders, which I wasn't expecting, since this studio has been all in on the Souls-like formula for a while now. I guess they're going for something a little more mainstream and accessible here. We'll find out how they did when the reviews go up soon. Austin's review will be up sometime this week. Cat people who own an Xbox only, your time has come, because Stray arrives on Xbox on the 10th, after having previously been exclusive to the PC and PlayStation. I feel like this one needs no introduction. It's Stray, it's the cat game, everyone loved it, you'll probably love it too, even if you're a dog person. Final video game release for the week is Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. This one is kind of a visual novel sort of thing, but it has some incredible composer talent behind it, and basically the best cast of voice actors in any video game ever. This one looks a little special, I think. It's hitting all platforms on the 10th. And finally, also arriving on the 10th is the Gran Turismo movie. I feel like this one has had no hype behind it at all. I've seen almost no marketing for it. If you'd have asked me when this was coming out, I would have guessed like 2 years from now. But no, it's actually here, and it's proving to be a little divisive. Some critics are enjoying it, others not so much. This is directed by none other than Neil Blomkamp, the guy behind District 9 and Chappie, so you know there's some talent at the helm. I do plan on seeing this at some point, but I haven't even seen Barbenheimer yet, as I've been on vacation, so my cinematic backlog is just about as backed up as my video game backlog at this point. Hey, put this on your radar.
Maybe you've been here before. That was just a dream. Now, it's time to come home.
I'm not sure how many people may or may not have seen this to this point, or perhaps thought they've seen it. You might remember a game called Cloudpunk. It was a delivery driver game set in a cyberpunk city, and you would deliver packages from A to B while a noir-style story of intrigue unfolded around you. Well, that setting was so arresting that the developer, Ion Lands, felt like it had a little more to give, or a lot more to give. Meet Nivalis, one of the most striking looking indie games you will ever see. Here in this neon-drenched world, you can manage restaurants and nightclubs, decorate your own personal pad, chat with all manner of friendly and hostile characters, and just vibe out in a city that looks as rad as this. I mean, come on, you're gonna tell me this doesn't look amazing? You are talking crazy. Nivalis has been in development for a while now, and the developer has announced a planned 2024 release. Highly recommend wishlisting this one so you can stay on top of updates and you'll know the minute it's released. If you want to do that, I've profiled it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other put this on your radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and a few big changes coming to how all of this works, so bear with me. Epic is old reliable though, no changes there, still giving away 1 to 2 free games a week, no questions asked. This week it's Bloons TD6, a very popular tower defense game sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam with over 235,000 reviews, pretty huge. The other Epic offering is Loop Hero. This one took over when it released back in 2021, and it's a clever inversion of the roguelike dungeon crawler, where instead of crawling through the dungeon, you're building the dungeon on the fly, trying to stop the brave hero's inexorable advance. Both of those are available until the end of the week, at which point they'll be replaced by a strategy game Europa Universalis 4 and Orwell Keeping an Eye on You, a detective style game where you play the role of Big Brother whether you like it or not. The PS Plus Essential lineup for August is now live, meaning you can get PGA 2K23 and the excellent Death's Door. You can also get Dreams, which is a really big deal because Dreams is amazing, even though the developer did announce that they will be wrapping up their ongoing support for the game creation platform and putting it into maintenance mode very soon, which is kind of sad, but anyway, that's how it goes. Alright, here's where things start to get funky. Prime Gaming from Amazon has historically been a monthly offering, but they're now moving to a weekly cadence for their free games, so we'll be sure to check in on that more regularly. Right now, you can get Star Wars The Force Unleashed, not bad. You can also get Payday 2, a well-timed offering to get you in the mood for Payday 3, arriving September 21st. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I must begin this next bit with an apology, because what I'm about to tell you is entirely my fault, and I take full responsibility for it. Games with Gold is dead. I bullied it so often and so hard that Microsoft could endure the slings and arrows no more and have decided to retire the offering, replacing it with something called Game Pass Core. It's the same price as before, $9.99 a month. That gives you access to Xbox multiplayer, but instead of a monthly offering consisting of 2 really old, obscure Xbox 360 arcade games that you've never heard of, you actually get a set library of around 20 games, with Microsoft saying that they'll add new games 2 to 3 times a year. There's some good stuff on there as well, like Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Hellblade, Psychonauts 2. There's also Fallout 76 on there, so you know they can't all be winners. That change will go live commencing September, so we've got 1 more month of games with Gold to enjoy. Please welcome Blue Fire, okay? And the racing classic that needs almost no introduction, Inertial Drift. There you go. Games with Gold, more like games with Gone. Did you guys miss me? No? Okay, alright, let's move on. Our feel-good story for the week takes us to the very exciting world of the fighting games community. And you may think that this would be all about the recently staged EVO fighting tournament, but you'd be wrong, because this is actually a moment from a different Street Fighter tournament, one hosted online. And it turns out that the host forgot to turn off his very unique Chun-Li character skin before booting up the game. Here's how that went down.
And Stop Reset Please was also a strong Street Fighter V player as well. But here we are. Lensta indeed going with Kimberly. Yeah, that's a very interesting Chun-Li costume there.
Oh, it's a new costume recently released, so yeah, I'll see about that.
I had to blur it out because YouTube is a little prudish, but yes, that is a naked Chun-Li doing her thing. Sadly, Capcom does not sell a naked Chun-Li character skin. This is a custom mod, but if it's naked characters you're interested in, then can I suggest an alternative to you? Baldur's Gate 3, a game where you can literally customize your character's junk. No custom mods or microtransactions required. Thank you, Larian Studios. You guys know just what the gamers want, and you aren't afraid to give it to them. Alright, nerds, that's the show for the week. Not gonna lie, felt pretty great to be back in the saddle. I really do love my job. I love this industry. I love being able to make terrible jokes about the news and helping you find little indie titles you might have missed. It's a good time putting this show together each and every week, and as much as I enjoyed my vacation, I'm just as glad to be home doing this thing. So I'm going to keep doing this thing for as long as you'll let me. Only now Austin will be helping out with the reviews and Big Stu will be helping out with all the editing. Excited to enter release season with the squad assembled. We've got Armored Core into Starfield, into Cyberpunk, Alan Wake, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Avatar, and of course the title we are all waiting for, RoboCop Rogue City. If you happen to have enjoyed this video, then I'd love it if you could give it a big old thumbs up. That really does help a lot. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll know the minute a video is live. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you all next week. Have you ever dreamed of starting your own business? It doesn't have to be the next Amazon. It could just be you making stuff you like to make, selling it online for a neat profit. Maybe you want to provide a service, giving your time and expertise to others. Whatever it is you might want to do, you're probably going to need a website, and there's no better place to build a website than Squarespace. Squarespace provide intuitive end-to-end tools allowing you to make a professional-looking website in minutes. It starts with their templates. Just choose one that interests you, and you can immediately start customizing it to your taste. After that, you can start utilizing all of Squarespace's e-commerce functionality. It has everything essential to transacting business online: ordering and inventory management, support for postage and tracking, accounting support to ensure you're tracking your tax liabilities, plus it supports a huge range of back-end payment options like Stripe, PayPal, and Afterpay. Back in the day, you had to pay companies tens of thousands of dollars to set this stuff up for you, and money every single month to manage it. Now you can do this stuff yourself for a fraction of the cost, making it easier than ever before for you to turn that business idea of yours into a reality. If you're interested and you want to check it out, then visit Squarespace to start building your website through their free trial. And if you want to get serious, use offer code SKILLUP for 10% off your purchase of a domain name. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.